So what I wanted to follow up with is what we were talking about yesterday. Remember, we were talking about composition in photography, kind of a big deal because it carries over into everything, right? We talked about how it could go into like script writing, musical writing, everything is composed a certain way. You can see composition just about everywhere, usually, especially in art. Even in like landscaping, things are composed a certain way. You have trees over here and bushes over there and flowers over there. Same thing with a garden. You put certain things in the front, certain things in the back. So, why would it be any different, especially in photography? So I'm going to jump in real quick, and then I'm just going to kind of do a little review and then go through the rest of the slides. And I actually pulled some student work that we can look at and kind of critique to see, what stood out, what looked good, maybe what we can improve. We never say anything bad that we don't like. We just say things that we can improve upon. Where it's called constructive criticism. It's called being nice if you don't like something, and in the hopes of trying to make them a better artist and create better work. So we always call it constructive criticism. If you look at somebody's artwork and go, man, I don't like that at all. You should say, well, why did you choose these colors? Why did you choose that? Is there a reason why you did it like this? Like, instead of just saying this stinks, because what's it going to do? It's going to offend people. So it's all about, when we critique with one another, it's all about how important it is to learn from it and become better at it. So Alex, how you doing? I just saw you jumped in. I'm going to jump over to my computer and share my screen with you now. So I have some pretty cool stuff I want to show you. Like I said, I'm going to finish up those last couple of slides, and I'm going to open up the chat because I would like to use the chat today. Since there's so few of us, I think it would just be easy to type in the answers and whatnot. But so if we pick up from where I left off, let me open up my presentation here, right over here. All right, let's see. There we go. So I'm going to move this over. So if you remember yesterday, I showed you about this funny looking fella. He looks like Yosemite Sam, if you think about it, from Bugs Bunny. But this is Ansel Adams, that famous photographer I told you about. And you're actually going to learn more about him as time goes on, just because he's one of the featured artists that I have. And if you remember yesterday, I talked about that it's important to, if you can't go to a museum, it's great. You just go online and you can go to really any artist website. Like say you wanted to look at Picasso. There's a website in his name that is run by this foundation where you can look at all of his artwork. So if you ever feel like, oh, I'm really kind of hitting a brick wall and I don't know what to do, and I want to go outside and take landscape pictures, just type in, famous landscape photographers. And then you could, use their work for inspiration. Okay. So let me move on. So that was the first slide. Then we talked about the important part, was that whole rule of thirds thing we talked about. And the rule of thirds is basically, it's these 9 squares. Okay. It's broken into, it looks like a checkerboard or tic-tac-toe. So if you look at it, it shows you where you should put your emphasis, what your main focal point is. And these words you're going to hear: emphasis, focal point, leading lines. These are like super duper foundational stuff that really never changes. And you'll hear it in video production and even in, graphic design when you make a poster. So you want to be able to remember this terminology. And as I said, I'm actually putting something kind of cool together. Does anybody here ever use Edpuzzle, work with Edpuzzle? Okay, Edpuzzle is a fun little thing where you watch a video and questions pop up during the video. So I'm actually starting to work with that because I really want to kind of test for comprehension and, to be able to watch the video and see a question pop up and then be able to answer it, I think is going to kind of do a lot for the program in terms of just covering all the vocabulary and stuff that we cover. So keep an eyeball out for that. I'm actually going to post that today after our live session. I'm going to, take the recording and post it in Schoology, but I'm also going to post the rest of the slides for today, as well as the little Edpuzzle quiz that I'm going to put up. So great, easy way to get some points. And really just do it as soon as you see the video, you know, because it's fresh in your head from us talking about it today. So that is what rule of thirds is. And like we showed you before, it kind of shows you where your emphasis is. So, you know, you have this tombstone here, or this grave marker to kind of draw you into the frame. And, you know, had it been in the center, it would more kind of stop you and not make you want to look farther into the photo. So if you notice, having this headstone over to the left kind of guides and draws you in to look at the rest of what's going on. And like I said, if it was right in the middle, it would literally kind of looks like a stop sign. It would kind of not want to draw you in as much. Same thing here, you know, you have this seagrass or flowers, whatever it is, over to the right. And then we talked about this thing called leading lines, remember? And it leads you into the picture to the third thing, which is your horizon line. So you can find all these different things in pictures. You could actually, a fun thing to do is when we get done today talking about composition, you can go through your phone, your camera roll, and pick out some pictures and say, well, you know, there's leading lines, there's my horizon line. You may not even know that you shot them that way for any particular reason, but now you'll be aware of what you can do with, you know, changing your horizon line, putting leading lines in, and you'll automatically start improving your photography. So then we walked over to here and we talked about that center of interest. And it was a photograph that should have a strong focal point. You know, and then we talked about simplicity. Sometimes less is more. And then we talked about horizon lines. Like if you look here at the picture of the boardwalk we looked at yesterday, the pier, it kind of shows you, see how high the horizon line is there? So it's more about what's on the ground, right? It's not really as much about the sky and the water, but over here, you can see this green grass with the leading lines of the road, but it's more about the sky. And to me, doesn't it look like the sky looks a lot bigger because that horizon line is so much lower to the ground? So there's some really kind of neat things you can do to get some easy creative effects in your photography. So moving on, we have 4 more slides. So foreground objects is something, actually, these 2 things I like to use a lot with my personal photography. So foreground objects, it can include an interesting object in the foreground scene. It adds depth, dimension, and a point of reference. So you could look here and say, well, this image is in the foreground. There's 3 main parts to your image: your foreground, your middle ground, and your background. Okay. So foreground, you can use that to your advantage by, once again, drawing the viewer into your image. Or, as I said, you might have a group of people and one person's in the very front, like a football team, and the quarterback's in the front. You could show that is your foreground object and that's your point of interest. Okay. I especially like this one we call varying angles, and it kind of expands upon that, but you shoot at varying angles to capture a subject from a different viewpoint. Move the camera higher or lower than you usually do for a dramatic effect. Take some photos from, and this is a big one, bird's eye view looking down or worm's eye view looking up. So if you see right here, this is she looks like a pretty fit, maybe a fitness instructor. So what, you know, obviously this was shot from a worm's eye point of view, but what does that do now that the picture was taken that way? What does that make her look like? Take a guess. You could put it in the chat or you could kind of jump out loud. But when you look at that picture of her, what kind of jumps out at you the way that was photographed? Does that kind of give you any ideas or what? What does that make it do? When you shoot worm's eye, when you're shooting at the ground, what impressions do you get looking at that image? There are no wrong answers. Actually, there's some wrong answers, but it would be pretty hard not to figure them out. So what do you think, Diego? When you look at that picture, why do you think the picture was shot that way?
Which one? The
female on the bottom. She looks like my impression was, I believe that she was a fitness instructor.
for a second, I think was the singer for this band, Guns N' Roses. I don't know why, but I don't know. Maybe for look at the fit, I guess.
Well, you're kind of in the ballpark. What do you think, Deshauna? Why do you think that picture was taken that way?
I think it was taken that way because maybe she's trying to show off her pants, or
That's
she's
enough.
just modeling into like a different pose.
Okay.
Oh,
So it's going to be real obvious when I say it. So the reason is that picture was taken, that makes her look a lot taller, doesn't it? So maybe she's 4'9". But what does that do when you shoot Worm's Eye? It gives this sense of power, of confidence. You know, she looks pretty cocky in that picture, like, I'll kick your butt. So it kind of shows when you want to see a fit, you know, let's say you want to join a gym, you see her, she's like, I'm going to whoop you into shape. And the way that it was photographed, it gives this exaggerated, like looming picture, and it kind of shows the confidence level that she has. So you could take a short person and make them look tall, and you can even take a tall person and make them look short by shooting from bird's eye point of view, where you're up high shooting down. Okay. So now you're going to start to figure this stuff out on why pictures are taken a certain way. This was obviously taken for, you know, like a marketing photo. So I thought it was a pretty cool way. I love shooting pictures of children. When I shoot weddings, I get down on one knee and I make them look kind of larger than life. And that really kind of shows that center of attention. Instead of just pointing down like a little kid, this works a lot better. So let me show you the next ones. This is a pretty cool one too. So framing is a technical term where you frame a subject by zooming or moving closer. It draws attention. So framing also helps you to show where your focal point is of your images. So as you can see, which is funny, when I made the slideshow, I didn't really notice it. That is a creepy kid right there smiling next to that flower. But I left it in there because it just kind of cracks me up. But if you look, obviously she is the focal point of that image, not so much the flower, right? And then if you look to the right, you see those buildings, the way it was framed, it draws you in because you're looking through a window. And that's what that dark object is right here. This is like a window that you're looking through to see what's going on down this way. And it's leading you down the image. Okay. Here's a cool thing I like to do sometimes, but you kind of have to be, you know, careful not to get too carried away with it. But silhouettes. So I'm sure everybody probably knows what a silhouette is, right? So you can use silhouettes in photography. Subjects made dark by photographing it against a light background. These types of images do a good job making the image anonymous since the subject is darkened. Okay. So I'm going to ask you another question. Okay. So you see this picture here of the person fishing, right? Okay. So why do you think, I'm going to tell you what it was for. This was for an advertisement piece for a state park to go fishing. Why do you think it was shot with a silhouette where you can't make the person out? This is a tough one. Give you brownie points if you figure this one out. And why would you think that that would be shot for an advertisement for a state park to go fishing? Why would it be anonymous like that? What do you think, Alex?
It can be anyone. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I think Alex, if you were paying attention, she just gave you the answer.
I'm still thinking. It looks like, I don't know, the picture of the man fisherman looks like a painting for me, like an art.
Okay, and you know what? Actually, it does. It makes it kind of look abstract. But if I was making a brochure to go fish, you know, to try to show people to go fishing, and I shot it like this, why do you think I would shoot it where you can't make out who the person is?
I don't know.
That's okay. Deshauna, go ahead and tell him.
It can be anyone.
Because it could be anyone. So if you see, and believe it or not, people actually think like this. So if I want to go fishing, right, and I'm looking for places to go, and I pick up a brochure and I see that picture, I can almost picture myself in there because it's a silhouette. If it was a woman, I'm like, well, that's not me. Or if it's a child. But if you look at that picture, that could be anyone. So you could apply yourself to that picture. Like if you see a couple standing on the beach in a silhouette and you're looking to go on your honeymoon, you'd be like, oh, that could be me and that could be my wife. and that's why things are sometimes shot with a silhouette, because it makes it look anonymous. So it tries to put you in the picture. So it's pretty neat how they, go about doing these. So it's pretty neat when you start to go, wow, now I know why they did that, because that's why they composed the picture that way. So I got a couple more reflections. Reflections add an interesting, sometimes abstract look to a photo. So here's a little kid walking on the beach, and you can see the cool reflection of the water. What point of view do you think that was shot at? Bird's eye or worm's eye?
Worm's eye.
There you go. Because why? Worms are in the ground, right? So you're shooting really low to the ground. So that's what you would call a worm's eye point of view. And then actually, Steve and I talked about this yesterday, right? We talked about symmetry, where things look the same on both sides, right? So here's some really cool examples. Architecture is always a big thing when it comes to symmetry, because usually homes, buildings are built where you can split them down the middle and they look the same. Not always the case, but here's a really cool picture of symmetry here, where it's a bunch of people sitting on a subway car. So do you notice though, that line actually splits it right down the middle. You have two people here, two people here. He's looking that way, he's looking that way. There's half of a person here, there's half of a person there. So there's some really cool ways that you can use symmetry. Now, was that a posed picture? Who knows? If not, it was one heck of a cool picture to take, because that's pretty neat to be able to capture that. So you can do some interesting things with it. And then last but not least, down here, we talked about viewpoint. So the viewpoint helps the viewer be in the shoes of the subject and helps to put you in the story instead of being an observer. This is a great little picture of two kids playing at the piano. I think this does a better job telling the story of an overall picture of two kids sitting at the piano, because this is just an interesting viewpoint to look at. Like, personally, I don't lay on the floor and stare at kids' feet, but when it's photographed this way, it's a cool, interesting photo how it was shot. Same thing here. Check out the flower shot at worm's eye point of view. The thing looks like it's 10 stories high, right? And it's only a tiny flower, but they laid on the ground and shot up into the sky. And now this flower looks like it's like 2 or 3 feet high, when it's only maybe 4 or 5 inches high. So there's some really cool things that you can do. Just using those basic techniques. There's more than that, but these are the most basic of them. But I would actually challenge you, and I'll actually create, let me write this down. I'm going to maybe ask you for extra credit to upload, send me some photos from your camera roll and tell me what framing or point of view or whatever it is that you use. I'll give you extra credit. And that's easy. All you got to do is send it to me or email. Please, nothing weird, just keep it clean. Or you could go out and take some now, but that's going to be a hint, our next photo assignment. So now that I went over that, I want to show you some stuff here, and I would love for everybody to participate, since there's only 5 of us. Okay. So here are some pictures that I just randomly grabbed from the assignments. Okay. From the exploratories that we did. So this one is the 5 senses, right? What are some of the pictures that you like in this? Anybody can pick any picture. There's no right or wrong answer on why you like it or why you don't, or why does it stand out?
The way that the picture was like took.
Okay, well, is there one particular picture in there that you like more than another?
I mean, the control is pretty good. Yeah.
The controller is pretty good. So that's actually a good close-up. Okay. And it's more of a like a straight on shot, and the way it's framed, I mean, you know exactly what's being shot. What else? What's another one or another good one that kind of stands out?
The TV.
So the TV, what point of view was that shot? Bird or worm?
Worm.
Yep. So yeah, so now you start to look at this stuff. You're like, oh, okay, this is how it was shot. Now, personally, I actually like I like the stick of gum, the pack of gum. I like the composition of it. I like how it's leading you into the picture and out. I just like the way that it was shot close up. Everything's in a row. It's got those cool, like I said, those leading lines that go in and out. So
I
some
didn't
neat.
think that was gum. I thought that was like a pack of something else. I didn't
Yeah.
know that was gum.
So that's a cool thing that you brought up and didn't even know it. When you shoot things a certain way and you shoot them really close up, it becomes abstract. And abstract just basically means you can't make out what it is. Like it could be a common everyday object like gum. So it is kind of neat when you can do that. Now this one is one of our students, Aiden, and he shot the patterns. Okay, if you remember the newest one that I'd like everybody to do. I know a couple of you here did it, but patterns. So let me ask you, Alex, take a look at this picture and tell me what jumps out at you right as you just look at.
The first one to the right, it looks good because for that, they like the color and slash the shadow.
Okay, awesome. You basically said exactly what I was thinking. And the piano. So the first thing that really jumps out is just the color. And the cool thing about it is it really wasn't even about color, it's about patterns, right? But he used colors to kind of emphasize the composition of the pictures of the patterns that he used. So I think that's really neat. And he's been in the program for a while, so we've learned about color and things like that. So he just kind of jumped on the opportunity to mix two different things together. And the piano is great. That's called that leading lines, right? It leads you to the back of the image, and then you can even see my mouse. There's your horizon line is right there. Here's another great example of leading lines. It's leading you down. And then this is shot from, once again, looks like worm's eye point of view. Then you have leading lines here, here, and here going up. So, just a really well done kind of composition. And I really think the color helped it too. Okay. So what do we think about this one? Does this work? And don't be afraid.
No.
Okay. Why do you think that is? Why do you think it doesn't work?
Yo, Steven has a question.
What's that again?
Has no shadow or anything in
Yeah,
that quality of picture.
Yeah, well, you're totally right. So it looks like the person was off to a good start with the taste and the touch. But the smell and the hearing and the sight are what? They're just clip art. They're just pictures. Okay. So honestly, now this might be the student's first crack at taking photos, for something like this, but there's so many other things you could do for hearing and sight, right? And the whole point is to take photographs. Okay. I also don't like the words in there because I think it kind of takes away from the image. It kind of is distracting to me. Okay. So keep that in mind when you do these. If you're going to put wording in there better be a good reason. Maybe, let's say if you wanted to use wording, I would probably recommend you put it at the bottom right-hand corner of every picture, like here, or the bottom left. Be consistent. See how this one's here, this one's here, this one's up here, this one's over here, this one's down here. Be consistent when you put them on your collage. But I would try to tend to stay away from the wording that just kind of distracts from it. Now here's a great one. What's different about this picture from the other ones we just looked at? What do you think, Diego?
The apple, I guess.
What's that? The what?
The apple.
Well, not so much that. So remember the last picture before we looked at in the music studio? What did that have a lot of?
Okay, I get it.
Had purple, red, blue. What did it have a lot of?
Just had like a black and white.
So, okay. So you just answered my question. This one is in black and white. So this has no color. And if we go back up to take a look how colorful that is. Okay.
Yeah.
But does that work for this image? I think it does, to do it in black and white, as long as you had a reason, because it makes the pictures, if you look, they're softer. And another word would be more intimate because they're shot close up. And it really emphasizes what the subject matter is because it's in black and white. There's no distracting colors to look at, like maybe the headphones were purple or the sweater was green. I think the fact that it was done in black and white kind of helps this image a little bit more. So I'm just showing you these to kind of give you a better kind of arsenal of tools in your head when you go about taking these pictures. You know, here's another one done in color. This kid cracks me up, Alfonso. You know, the kid loves to eat, as you can tell by the bottom left-hand corner. I would assume that is some sort of Egg McMuffin. But he did a pretty decent job. What is the only image that you would have a problem with? What's the only picture that's not as good as the rest? What do you think, Steve? Do you notice anything different about those pictures? There's one that really kind of sticks out.
I'm saying the eye.
Yes. And why is that?
Well, it just looks creepy.
Well, it looks creepy, but guess what? It's blurry, right?
I'm gonna say that it's blurry.
Yes. Well, you know what? Speak up next time because you've been dead on the last 3 questions I've asked you, Alex. So good job on that.
Wasn't paying attention, but I was looking at my phone for emails.
That's all right. But yes, it's out of focus. So you can go and take, you know, the funny thing is when I opened up this picture and look at it, I didn't look at the 4 good pictures. I looked at the 1 bad one because it was out of focus. So really, really keep that in mind when you're taking pictures on your phone. They may look good this big, but zoom in on them and make sure they look really good. Okay. You know, here's another interesting one of the 5 senses, you know, just a cool way to put them all together. Now, the only thing, and the reason I showed you this picture, the one thing that's a little bit distracting for me is there's no frames around them. They all kind of really get jammed together. I'm old fashioned. I kind of like a white or a black line around everything just to show you the different pictures. But if there's a good reason for it, then do it. In this picture, I don't believe that there was reasoning behind it. But overall, the pictures are nice. The JBL speaker is a little bit blurry, but overall not a bad. And I know this was the student's first attempt. What about this one? Do we like this one?
I like this one. This one seems very neat.
You know what? That's awesome. And you're dead on with that. And you know what I like about it? And let's use the word that was in the presentation, simplicity. Sometimes less is more. It looks more refined, I guess. There's some, you know, I like to use fancy words, but it looks, the pictures are technically very nicely shot. They're sharp, they're bright, they have a lot of contrast in them, a lot of good lights and darks. Like, look at that eyeball picture. That's great. You can even see, you know, the eyelash hairs. So it was very well done. But once again, that simplicity where you have these basic elements and there's really only a couple of colors, her skin tone, and then the blacks from her nail and her headphones in the can. So really, really cool. The only thing, and I don't do this just to nitpick, I'm not a big fan of putting your name on your pictures because you're not famous yet. When you get famous, I would love for you to put your pictures on your stuff, but it takes away from it. When you show your portfolio, your name will be on it. So then you don't have to put them on your work. Okay. Because honestly, to me, it takes away a little bit. So stay away from putting your name on there and just let the work represent itself. Okay. Here's a kind of a neat thing. And I know this student and she was a last year student. She really took an opportunity to just do this whole crazy photo collage. And I like it. And I think in this one instance, the wording's not bad. I have an issue with the word smell being right over her face. But you could kind of move stuff around, move those words around and do that. Or use the same size, like this type is a little bit smaller than this one, and this is in the way. But maybe if the word site was put, you know, here, sound was put there outside of the white frame. But I like the fact that she took a lot of pictures and she was trying to tell a story. And the funny thing is, this girl never used to like having her picture taken. And I give her a lot of credit for finally getting to be comfortable and taking images of herself. So I wanted to just kind of, highlight that she did a really neat way. It looks just like a bunch of pictures were sorted and laid on the ground. So pretty neat. This one is terrible. We should just skip right over it. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Here's the Shauna's. So let's take a look at the Shauna, shall we? Is there anything that we like about this at all? What do you think, guys? Should we just skip over it?
My pictures are like blurry.
No. So here's the deal. I actually like, not actually, I like what you did with the way you laid it out, because it looks like an advertisement, doesn't it? And in this case, it actually works here that you put this nice brownish pastel, tan, whatever color, and you put the title and your name on it because it's not in the way. Okay, it's its own thing. So it almost looks like a postcard or an advertisement. In this case, it's really not about if they're blurred. If that's the best that your camera can do, then that's fine. Okay. But you're right. When you look at it on the big screen, it can show you whether your picture's a little blurry or a lot blurry. But I do like the way that you composed your pictures with these close-ups here. Right here is your focal point that we talked about, your foreground object. The picture of you with the headphones on is nicely lit from the window light. The touch down here with the window, and then up here with the cactus is just another cool thing for touch. So overall, pretty good job. Okay. All right. And I think this is the last one. Now, you can obviously see you got smell, taste, touch, sound, and sight. Is there anything that really kind of jumps out at you about this picture? We think, Diego.
I think too much yellow for me. I mean,
Yes.
a lot of yellow.
I agree. Now, you'll learn about color where certain colors are used for certain emotions or to get people to think about things, like red is stop, yellow is caution. In this case, I think it's too much color. It really takes
Yeah.
away. It really takes away from the pictures. And honestly, the composition, I would have tried a little bit harder to really fill this picture up. So I'm actually going to show you something real quick to just do a little bit of before and after for you. And let's see what we can do to kind of clean this up a little bit and just kind of take it to the next level. So I just opened up Adobe Photoshop. Okay. And I'm going to see what I can do to fix this. So now I'm going to open up my layers. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to make a layer of each one of these pictures. Okay. And whoops, I'm going to get rid of that. Let's try that one more time. So I'm going to get this. Well, you know what? I'll tell you what, let's keep a little bit of that yellow and see what happens. Okay. And just not a whole bunch. So we can actually use that as a frame, right? So we'll jump to the next one. Just hang in there for me. I'll be done in a second. I'm going to go to each one of these images here. Now, I guess, well, here's one of the gripes that I have about it too. Now, I believe that this person did not have a camera, because these are obviously all taken off the internet, probably Google Images. But that's okay, because I understand that some people don't have access to the technology or their camera's broken. And I had a couple students say, look, my camera's broken, but that's fine. You can still, find examples of the different things that you need. Hold on, let me go back here. All right. You can just go online and find the stuff you need and still be able to make a decent layout. Okay. All right, so last but not least, okay, is this. All right, so let's go to, this thing's always in my way. Here we go. All right. So I always like to show where my layers are. Where are my layers? Here they are. Okay. So I'm gonna grab that, bring it over here. So check this out. So I'm gonna take this background and just turn it white. Okay. Just to start off with, it just makes it a little bit easier and less confusing to look at. So you won't notice it yet. Okay. Whoops. All right, let's do that one more time. Okay, so now we're gonna do it. So this kind of, as time progresses, you'll start to really understand, you know, how you can lay your pictures out properly, right? So let's say I broke them all into what was called layers. And if you notice, so now I can start to figure out, see how the pictures are a little bit off in size? You know, that goes a long way to be able to, you know, make them a little bit bigger and fix them. You could do something like this. And then it all becomes about how you want to frame this stuff out. Now, I never do this, but you can kind of cheat a little bit and stretch. So now you could do all right, stop following me here. Here we go. There's a little bit of lag because we're in Zoom right now, but that's okay. So what do we think? How does that look?
A lot better.
So
Much
yeah,
better.
so here's the thing. So as time progresses in the program, you're going to learn how to just take some basic photos and use composition. Now the yellow kind of works now, you know, because it's not overpowering, you know, the image. Okay. And then let me show you a little before and after. Okay. So where did we start? Oh, let me fix that. We started here, didn't we? So check that out. Like, I think, you know, see, Deshauna, how all the yellow and stuff is going. This is the original image. So what do? We spent 10 minutes and we came up with that. Okay. So you're going to basically learn this stuff and figure it out on your own. And as you progress through the program, you know, the quality of your work is just going to be bananas. And I will take full credit for it. But, you know, learning stuff at this age in this program is pretty awesome. So, you know, you can take your existing images now on your camera roll and come up with all kinds of cool collages and put them in your portfolio of whatever you want, just to build it up. But that's kind of what I wanted to show you. Once you understand composition and color and shape and all that stuff, you know, you can really up your game from something like this to something like that. Okay. And like I showed you from that student, Aiden, you know, he had this really cool, you know, he started out with, you know, some decent images. But, you know, now that he's been in the program for a while, he comes up with some really cool stuff. Okay. So that's all I wanted to show you for today. Okay. Thank you so much for popping in. I know we went a little bit long, but I greatly appreciate it. I'm going to post this on Schoology, and then I'll even put a really cool video in there with some questions through Edpuzzle that you can answer. You just watch the video. Basically covers everything we just talked about. But that's it. So tomorrow I'm going to talk about that exposure triangle on actually how to take pictures manually. Okay, so if you had an old camera laying around like this one, you would be able to take all of these manual settings and be able to take a picture, manual focus, manual this, manual that. Why is that important? Because it's good to learn the history of it. And the funny thing is, people ask me, when I do photography, I still shoot manually with a fully digital camera. Why do you think that is? This will be the last question of the day. I have this ridiculously nice, fully automatic camera, but I shoot manual a lot of the time. Why do you think that is? Anybody? Don't be scared.
You can have different angles and like you can see how you want it when on Max is automatic.
You are okay. So yes, you are super close. So I'll tell you what, because cameras don't know what you're taking a picture of. Okay. They have automatic focus and automatic exposure, but they literally don't know what you're taking a picture of. So you, as a professional photographer, can set the focus on the subject. If there's 10 people and you want that one person, you can manually focus on it. If you want your picture to be a little bit lighter than the background of what it's taking, then you can make your pictures darker. You can make them lighter. If you ever see those cool pictures of cars going by at night and they have the headlights are streaking by, you would never be able to do that with an automatic camera because it thinks you're doing something wrong. So when you shoot, when doing manual photography, it just helps you be way more creative. Okay. So that's all I got for today.